Hey, it's the Profit Answer Man, Rocky Lalvani. If you're new to the podcast, check out my interview with Mike Michalowicz. It's episode number 2. If you want to hear about each chapter in the Profit First book, go back and listen to episodes 3 through 13. Episode 1 is the why and how. On the Profit Answer Man, we learn money mastery without all the complicated accounting mumbo-jumbo using a simple system. Your accountant is busy documenting your transactions and creating a rearview mirror of what happened. My guess is you don't even look at the reports they sent you. If you're like most business owners, you struggle with this, and it's not your fault. We aren't taught money in school, and accountants aren't taught how to be profitable. The Profit First system created by Mike Michalowicz works, and he certified me to help you implement the system in your business. Remember, the new equation is sales minus profit equals expenses. Let's face it, without cash flow, you can't pay your employees, buy needed materials, or pay your mortgage and support your family. I help you to do that and more, so you can focus on the parts of the business you love and receive the rewards for your labor and investment into your business. The stronger you are as a business owner, the more jobs you create, the better we are as a country. Small business owners are the backbone of America, and for that, you deserve to be well rewarded. Just remember, more revenue does not equal more profit. That's why we focus on the bottom line. This episode of the Profit Answer Man podcast is brought to you by SMBpodcastnetwork.com. The network is a collection of podcasts and shows from around the internet which focus on bringing you interviews with amazing guests who share actionable advice, ideas, and information for small and medium-sized business owners and entrepreneurs. Visit www.smbpodcastnetwork.com to find more great shows and easily subscribe to be notified of new episodes. It's a great way to discover quality content. If you've discovered us via the network, then I hope you enjoy today's show and will consider subscribing directly so you never miss our episodes. Big news. We realize that we are not able to help every business and that many smaller ones can't justify our fees. And quite frankly, they're right. But they still need help. And that's why we are creating the Profit First Experience, a course that includes different levels of support and an upcoming community to focus on helping you to be more profitable. If you're interested in learning more, please use the link in the show notes to sign up to be notified when it launches and to secure the pre-launch special pricing. Did you go into business so you could have freedom? Have you achieved it? Do you know how much you need to be able to say no and just do what you want? That's our episode for today. And it's the result of implementing Profit First. We have another serial entrepreneur who used Profit First to build a financially robust business. Listen in and see how he did it. Jeff Kikel, after years of working for others, had the epiphany that he had always been an entrepreneur inside other people's companies. Finally realizing this helped Jeff to go on and found highly successful businesses of his own. As Jeff grew his business, he had to learn what it takes to successfully run a small business. This included struggling with entrepreneurial poverty. After years of struggle, Jeff developed the Freedom Day method of rapid business growth, instant profitability, and operational efficiency. Jeff believes that if your business is not evolving, it's dying. Having several of his friends who've started businesses at the same time he did, he saw many of these businesses fail. Tired of seeing his friends struggle, Jeff made it his mission to help businesses evolve and survive. Jeff and I are on the same page. We've got the same mission, ending entrepreneurial poverty and helping you to be profitable. Let's meet Jeff. Welcome to the Profit Answer Man, Jeff Kikel. It's great to have you join us today.
Hey, Rocky. How are you? Thanks for inviting me on.
I am doing well and excited to learn a little bit more about you. Can you share a little bit about your business?
Certainly. So I actually own 3 businesses, technically 4. So this is, I've created businesses that kind of support the other ones, but my primary business is a co-working space called T-Works Co-working down in the Austin area. We own 3 locations. It was my idea. I was the founder of it and came up with the concept for it. And have been building these over the last 6-7 years. Part of it was all of them were built pre-pandemic. So we haven't built anything after the pandemic, but help, and we'll talk a little bit about Profit First, but that was one of the things that kind of helped us through the wonderful world of COVID here. My other business, I've been in the financial services industry for the last 30 years. My other business is a wealth management firm. What we really focus on is working with small business owners, independent business owners, family businesses specifically that are looking for that eventual exit from the business. And typically they want to have someone inside the family take the company over. Most of the time, those people don't have any money. So we help them kind of build and structure a transition process. And then I also own a publishing company and do a podcast and publish our books and things like that through there.
The serial entrepreneur.
Yes. Well, everybody says serial entrepreneur. I'm too cheap to pay other people to do stuff. So I just create businesses that support my other businesses and I pay myself.
That's what Amazon does.
Yes. Jeff Bezos is my hero. So yes, exactly.
So let's talk about it. You kind of mentioned this. What was life like before Profit First?
Well, it was a real mess. I went from the corporate world, working for a small registered investment advisory firm. It wasn't small. I mean, it was kind of mid-tier regional firm. And, I made the decision that I was going to be an entrepreneur. I realized that I'd always been an entrepreneur. I just was an entrepreneur inside other people's businesses. And finally made that jump, that scary jump, and went out. And I'm very good at writing business plans and convincing people to give me money, which allowed me to fund a co-working space, which nobody really understood. I went to 17 bankers. So good at that point, but I wasn't as good at running the business from the financial perspective. I'm more of a marketing guy. I have a finance background. I understand accounting, but I think it's, was created by the devil to begin with. And really, it was one of those things that I just didn't enjoy. So I had a bookkeeper. My bookkeeper basically just did the books and wasn't really a consultant with me. And I mean, the challenge with that is when you're a new business owner, you don't really know what you don't know. And I was just flying the business by the seat of my pants. I built a wonderful model that was able to sell to bankers, but I didn't really follow that model because I was just kind of taking things as they were coming. And it was kind of interesting. I have a really good friend of mine who became my bookkeeper. And she was the one who introduced me to the Profit First book. And it was because she was thinking about becoming a Profit First professional. And she just wanted me to kind of read the book and, just see, okay, does this seem something legit that I should do in my business? And I read the book, and I was actually right at that time looking at expanding. And this is like within the first year of my business. So, we were still struggling to kind of build the business out. And I saw an opportunity to expand to the building next to us. And it was funny because I was right in the middle of making that decision the weekend that I read Profit First. And I started working on the little equations inside of Profit First and came up with the realization that if I expanded the business, it would have been out of business within about 6 months. And so the book saved my butt more than once, but that was kind of what convinced me, all right, I've got to get the financial part of my life under control. I spent quite a bit of time restructuring our business around the profit first concepts. That helped us to become profitable in 18 months. And we've been profitable ever since. And it helped us survive the pandemic and everything else.
What was it that caused you to take action? Like, what was it in the book that really resonated with you?
Well, I mean, it's just that one little exercise that you go through at the beginning where you start to, look at, all right, what's my revenue coming in? What's my expenses going out? There's no profit at this point. I'm not really saving for taxes. I'm not accounting for taxes because I wasn't making any money anyhow. So that, when I looked at the book, I just instantly went, holy crap. It's just one of those things when all of a sudden you start running your business from the perspective of a profit that, it's like income minus profit equals expenses. Well, you figure out how to make those expenses fit into that E column. And like I said, it was that kind of aha moment that just hit me like a lightning bolt at just the right time of my life. And I can't think of a better time for that had to happen. And I'm not sure it would have had as much of an effect on me had it not happened at that time.
And this is one of the things we tell, especially new business owners, is reverse engineer your business. Figure out up front, is it going to be profitable, and how much of your time is it going to suck up? And are you going to get paid for that time as well? Is there enough money in the business to be able to do that? Too often I see people a couple of years into the business and they're stuck because they're barely making it and they put all this time and effort in the business and it's hard to let go. And they're always thinking, a little bit more sales or expansion will solve my problem. But clearly you showed, hey, expansion would have crushed us. And that, I think, is the most important thing, is knowing where it's going to end up. And you can reverse engineer and backwards everything in. And then you can also take the time to predict your cash flow. So the question is, will I make it long enough to establish myself? And will I make it long enough to pay for the growth if you're taking the next step? And most of that can be calculated. And again, we're never perfect, but you get a good guess.
You can. And, the way I look at it in my business, the financial service business is pretty easy. We bring in clients and we make revenue. So there's not a ton of, it's not exponential expenses. The co-working business is a different animal because, each one of these things I have developed literally from the ground up. Which requires a lot of capital at the beginning. And so that was really when you started running the numbers of, okay, finishing out another 2,500 square foot or almost 5,000 square foot space, that's $500,000 at least of investment that, I'm going to finance. Okay, well, it's really easy to figure out your cash flows from that. And it wasn't going to work. There was just no way I could make that number work. And I think somebody else and even me prior to the Profit First world, I'd have probably just taken the risk and said, well, we'll just see how it works. But I can tell you we'd have probably ambled on for about a year or two, and then the pandemic would have hit and it would have just crushed us. Because, instantly overnight when the pandemic hit, we lost probably 40% of our revenue overnight because people were just like, I'm not coming in, so I don't have to pay anymore. And even some of the people that I had contracts with, just instantly just said, well, I'm not going to pay anymore. So, it was one of those things that was another exercise of, okay, well, what can we, let's go through that number now and assume 40% less revenue. What do we have to do? How do we have to adjust our income? How do we have to adjust the expenses of the business? We literally went in overnight and just looked at every single possible thing we could that we didn't need that we could just get rid of. But, once again, that was not the way we ran the business at the beginning.
Business owners won't do that until they're forced. They'll just let money leak out of their business left and right without thinking twice about it. And it's one of the things we like to do at least every 3 to 6 months is go examine all the expenses and say, do we still need this? Is it still valuable? Because things change, or, employees sign up for different things. You sign up for programs and then something replaces it. Nobody cancels it. It's the constant is going through and saying, hey, where is our money really going? Now, the second half of that today with inflation is, hey, where am I getting surcharged by my vendors, and how do I pass that along to my clients? Because that becomes more and more important in making sure that as your vendors increase your prices, that you're increasing prices to keep on top of it.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And I mean, we've had to do that. We didn't do it enough at the beginning. So now now regardless of what our costs are, we will slowly kind of eke our prices up every year, because, the problem is you can't just go from, now it's 30% more and I'm going to dump 30% on my customers. It just doesn't work that way, so we've had to kind of just slowly kind of eke it up a little bit every year, just so that we can stay ahead of the game and not be behind. Especially, I mean, today, I think it's a real challenge. For us, some of our expenses are pretty predictable from the standpoint of our, rents are pretty predictable. I mean, my landlord is great about making sure we have kind of a very clear picture of what, each year is going to look like. So I can budget that in ahead of time. Utilities have been a real challenge all of a sudden. Our utilities have just gone through the roof this summer. So that's, something that you just can't plan on.
It's funny. Everyone's complaining about gas prices going up. And I just looked, our electric generation costs are up 200% from 2 years ago. So that bill is now triple what it was. And people don't realize that. And that's one of those bills that you don't even pay attention to, right? The utilities come, you pay them. You don't think to say, hey, what's going on with my utilities? Do I need to negotiate? Is there another option?
That's the problem. So one of the spaces I have is Austin Energy, which, they're basically, it's like dealing with the mafia. And the other one is is our electric co-op. And, they're always talking about how, we fight for our members of the co-op. And I'm like, oh yeah, you fought for like a 40% increase in the last year, looking at my rates. So it's like, yeah, you haven't fought for us too much here, guys. I hate to tell you this.
So what's been the outcome of all of this? How has this changed your world?
Well, once again, I see way too many, and I'm sure you see this the same, working with a lot of business owners that are looking for that transition out. I can't tell you how many business owners I've worked with in the last 5-10 years that, they've gone 7, 8, 9 years without paying themselves. They're paying employees, they're paying their kids, but they're not paying themselves. And so you've got a business owner that's making, a couple $1 million in their business. And if they're paying themselves, it's like $40,000 or $50,000 a year, and that's it. And, not reflective of the level of business that they have, not taking into account the fact that they need to have some type of a retirement fund or whatever. So I think for us, one of the advantages we have is we've always, known, okay, every month we put, when our revenue comes in, which 95% of our revenue comes in on the first day of the month, because that's when we bill all of our clients. And so, as soon as that money comes in, we yank money out of what comes in, we put it over into an owner's pay account. We, pull some profit out. I have a profit account and a tax account. And then from the rest of that, whatever is left over is what we live on, what the business lives on every month. And we live by that. Ideally, I'm going to spend every dime of that at the end of the month. But if there's anything left over, that gets shifted to the profit account at the end of the month.
You've got discipline there.
Yep. Didn't always happen that way.
Well, now that you have clarity on what you have to spend, you can appropriately do it.
Yeah.
And
well, the funny part is like I told you, revenue initially was down 40% during the pandemic. And I just, we stayed with the same discipline. Okay, we're going to, put 10% of our income that comes in is going to go to taxes. 10%, I think, is what we've set for profit. Our, owner's income goes in there. And, we just figured out, okay, what expenses could we cut to keep them down to the expenses? And it was funny because I got to the end of the year and, I was doing the taxes last year in 2021 and doing the 2020 taxes. I looked at it at the end of the year and I was like, crap, I owe money. I've never had to owe money before. And just because we were so disciplined, we actually had to owe money. And the nice part is there was a nice little tax account that was sitting there. So I didn't panic. And, I just kind of wrote that check that I needed to. I also followed Mike's advice and wrote a check to us, my wife and I, to cover any taxes that we paid during the year from personal income taxes. And, it was the pandemic year for us was challenging. But, once again, that discipline that we had developed from like 2016 to 2019 just helped immensely. And, once again, it's allowed us to be very lean and very disciplined coming out of the pandemic when people started coming back. And it's made our business more profitable as a result.
And I think that's the one thing people forget. You need to run your business lean.
Yeah.
And most businesses are not run lean. And today we're facing all kinds of increasing costs, including labor. And so you have to question everything.
Well, I have an old saying that people have, starve a cold, feed a fever. I say feed a cold, starve a business.
You don't need more resources. You need to be more resourceful. Figure your way out. So one of the outcomes of this has been a new program of yours, which is called Freedom Day. Can you share a little bit about that?
Exactly right. Well, so one of the things that it was kind of an interesting thing for me. I've done financial planning, wealth management for years with clients, and I started noticing, I guess it was around 2008, 2009, we went through the big economic downturn. And it was interesting because the young people that I dealt with and did financial planning for, they came into it with the attitude we would talk about retirement, and they would kind of roll their eyes and say, "Oh, well, that's years down the road. I'll be, it's going to be 40 years before I turn 65, so I'm not going to worry about that. I want to live life now and in the day." And the older people, I would talk about retirement and they would say, "Oh, I'm 55 now. I'm going to retire at 65. I didn't save well enough, so I'm just not going to be able to retire." And so every experience was this kind of negative experience that I was having with clients. And one day I just happened to be working with a client who, came in with that attitude of, well, I'm never going to be able to retire. And I sat down and I calculated everything up and I told them, I was like, "You're basically free. You've got your freedom day today." And I saw this little grin on their face and this, all of a sudden the weight off of their shoulders. And somehow it just resonated in my head. And I started using that term freedom day, freedom day, freedom day, which led me to look back at my own life. I had gone from working in the corporate world, really hating, my last job, I absolutely despised working there. I could not wait to leave. It was the one job that made me go, I don't care if I have to live in a car. I'm just leaving here and I'm starting my own business. And that was the first day of my life that I had my freedom, because I had created a business that generated a revenue that replaced my income, or replaced what I needed to run my life. And I was free. I could make that decision to quit my job, which I did. Went on to found 3 more businesses. The pandemic led me to step back in my own business because I basically created the worst job I'd ever had, which was running a business. And really, the pandemic made me step back and realize there was a life outside of there. But I began to have this passion of saying, okay, I want to help people reach their freedom days. So a big portion of that, and you and I have talked about this on my podcast as well, a big portion of that is you've got to get your finances under control. You've got to understand, in your own personal life, you've got to get rid of debt. You've got to, if you're going to go start a business, it's best start a business while you still have a job. So start it on the side as a little side gig and get it up to speed enough to where it can replace what you need in your life to run your life so that you can leave your job and go and work on that business and make lots more revenue. So, that's really where Freedom Day has been. It's become a podcast, my Freedom Nation podcast. And it is leading into a bunch of stories from the podcast. A bunch of people that I've interviewed are part of the book as I'm sharing different concepts of what it takes to get to your Freedom Day, get your finances under control, create what I call a freedom engine, which is that thing that's outside of your job that generates revenue that, can replace the income that you need to live. And then the final phase of that is, well, what are you going to do after? Some people don't quit their job. Some people absolutely love what they do for a living, but the release of having to not survive or, be on survival mode all the time where they know their bills are paid no matter what. It makes them better employees if they want to stay an employee, and maybe they become an investor instead of a business owner. But a lot of people are like you and I that just said, you know what, I don't want to work for somebody anymore. I want to go start my own thing. I want to do something that I have a passion about. And that's really my goal. It's where I'm trying to lead people to. I'm trying to be that good example of, I was a 25-year employee before I became a business owner.
It's funny. One of my clients today asked me a question. He's like, what percent of your clients don't you like working with? Or like, what percent of your clients do you like working with was the question. And I said, 100%. I said, because if I don't like working with them, I'm not working with them because I've reached my Freedom Day, right? I don't have to do that. But as part of my Freedom Day, I'm doing what I love.
Yeah.
And
and you're able to help other people that you really like.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we have very simple rules of our business. I mean, my rule number one is no jerks. I mean, if you're a jerk, I honestly, if you are a jerk to myself or my team before we start to work together, you ain't going to get any better later. And I'd rather just not start the relationship at that point. And we're fortunate enough that we have more than enough revenue, especially in the wealth management business, got more than enough revenue to be very choosy about the people we work with. And if somebody doesn't really appreciate the fact that we are, that we're here to work with them, that's just not a good fit for us. So, I'm the same way. 100% of the clients we have, I love working with. They're all like a big family to us.
So I guess Freedom Day is also the day that you get to get rid of your bad clients.
Oh yeah. That's the next book in the series, Pumpkin Plan, or actually I think it's the precursor, Pumpkin Plan, going in and calling out the ones that you don't like. And it's not that we don't like them. It's just that we're not a really good fit for them. If we have clients today, I don't care how many assets you have. If you're not willing to at least spend one day a year working with myself and my team to do some planning, I can't do my job. So we just don't really want to do business with you at that point. So we will fire a client. If they will not do an annual review with us, we will just fire the client and, let them. It's better not to pay us because I don't want you to pay me if I'm not doing anything for you.
I think that's one of the things that I do that's somewhat unique is I look at their business finances and their personal finances because they go together.
Yep.
Your business and your life need to all be on the same page. And if you're struggling at home, then you're going to struggle in your business. If you're struggling in your business, you're going to struggle at home. And at the end of the day, the purpose of your business is to generate a profit so that you can build your wealth. You took out the risk. You did all the hard work. You should be rewarded for it. And so let's remove money from your business and let's either invest it in real estate or another business, or, you can go buy stocks or bonds or whatever it is. But you need to diversify so that when we get into issues like COVID and other things that may happen or a recession, that we are able to survive through that.
Well, and I think the other part of it too is, I sit down with clients and I kind of map out their business life. So, I do a lot of exit strategy planning, and there are certain people that basically are self-employed. I mean, they own a job is what they do. Even if they employ people, they still kind of own the job. And they might employ people there. And then you've got your business owner, so if you look at the cash flow quadrant, Robert Kiyosaki, you have people that sell their time for money, and you have people that sell their knowledge for money. And I sit down with clients and we really map out and say, well, okay, in your situation, is there anything you can do to make your self-employed business more of a business? And some of them will say, there's really not anything else I can do, or I don't really want to go down that path. I'm really happy with my lifestyle business or my self-employed practice. We've got a lot of attorneys and real estate people that we work with. So, the reality with them is once we've determined what their path is, our goal then is, okay, if you're self-employed, there is no value to your business. You cannot sell it unless you're going to sell yourself into personal slavery. You can't sell your business. So you need to understand that there is no value there. So you need to be extracting value from your business and putting it into other investments, whether you're investing in other businesses, you're investing in real estate, the stock market, whatever that is, you need to pull that value out of the business. And you've got to be very disciplined about doing that. The other side of the coin is, well, the people that do have a business that does have value, that has, procedures and unique strategies that they use, and they have a team that is enacting upon those strategies, and the business owner isn't actively involved. Well, what can we do to increase the value of that business for you? Because that is going to be a major source of your retirement or freedom income that you have down the road.
And I think that's an important point that you brought up. Your business valuation is a multiple, and the multiple is affected by a lot of things. So if that's your exit strategy, work on the drivers that affect the multiples, and there you go. And if you do own a job, I will tell you, I think there are ways to pivot, and there are ways to do things differently that will allow you to maybe have some sort of an exit. Some people will have a better option than others, but there are ways to do that. And it just may be the value of your customer relationships or a list or something else that you have. And taking the time to think and work on your business instead of in your business will help you.
Well, and understand what those values are. So if you built a client list or an email list, okay, that does have value. What is the value of that? What can you do to increase the size of that, the activity of it, all those pieces of the pie? So that, that's one piece of it. The other piece that I always talk with, especially with self-employed people, what knowledge do you have that other people would want to know? That you can create a course or a program or a coaching or something you can do. Greatest example of this, one of my clients that I worked with, we were really kind of planning out her exit. And, she was a real estate person, and she was also in the downsizing business. So, she basically had created a whole strategy of how to downsize how to downsize people out of bigger houses into smaller ones, and then she was the real estate agent that kind of helped on that end, and we were having the conversation once, and I was like, why don't you just teach that to other real estate people as a strategy for them to help grow their businesses outside of that. And that's what she's been doing. And it's allowed her and her husband to kind of check out. They go, a couple times a year, they go sailing for 3 or 4 months, and, anywhere that they can get an internet connection, she can coach people as she goes. And that's just really changed her business life and what their retirement's going to look like.
There's always a way. You just got to plan it out, find it, figure it out.
You have to be willing to do that. And some people just aren't. I mean, some people are like, I just don't want to do anything else. A lot of attorneys that I work with are that way. And I don't want to go ahead and I don't want to create a course or anything like that. I'll just retire. Okay, fine. But let's peel money out of that business while we can.
And that's another group of people who is not always very good with their financials.
No, they are not. Them and doctors, although doctors will tell you they're smarter than you when it comes to finances. But yeah, that's one of my rules. I don't typically work with a lot of doctors because I don't like people that think they're smarter than I am and typically make really dumb decisions when it comes to money.
Both of those professions are advanced degrees, and during their advanced degrees, the one subject that never comes up is business and finances. And they do not teach it in their programs, and that's why it's almost a taboo subject, which makes it very difficult when they come out because it's something that's been totally ignored in their education, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I mean, I know there's people that try and, go in during when they're coming out of their medical programs and all that, financial planners that focus on that. But most of them are just looking to sell insurance to these guys and not really teach them about how to be good business people.
I don't doubt it. If people would like to learn more about you, check out your podcast, learn about Freedom Day, what's the best way for them to do that?
Best way right now is to go to our podcast website, which is www.freedomnationpodcast.com. That is the world of Freedom Day right now. You can listen to the podcast. We've got some amazing guests, including Rocky, that we've interviewed on the show. And what is coming up and will be announced here very quickly on the show is I just finished the last chapter of the book. It's now going to the publisher, and we're hoping for November of this year to launch the Freedom Day book. And that's really all the concepts that we've talked about on the podcast over the last year, and really focusing on trying to help people develop this and help them either get their Freedom Day from a job or their Freedom Day from their own business, which I've experienced both in my life. I've had 2 Freedom Days in my life, and planning on one more a little bit later on this year.
Sounds awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Rocky. I appreciate it.
Here's the truth of the matter. You don't need me. Just read the book, listen to the podcast, and implement. It works. Start running your numbers and make the tough choices to keep costs down while appropriately raising prices. If you want help, then check out the link in the show notes for our upcoming course, and you'll get that at the launch price, which will be real nice. So it'll give you a little bit of help and help you through the friction if you get stuck. Once you raise prices, next use your profit to build wealth and figure out how much you need so you too can have freedom. Why do you think I say you don't need me? Because I don't need to sell you. I hit my freedom number before I built this business. I just happen to love playing with spreadsheets, and getting paid to do so is even more fun. I get to solve the math problems of business owners and watch them thrive and make tons of profit. We also develop plans to use profit outside their business so their profit can grow. They build wealth through a variety of different avenues based on whatever works best for you.
If you want a done-for-you service, you can hire us as your chief profitability officers. You have your own area of expertise, and maybe you want to spend more of your time doing what you love. We only work with a handful of clients, so they all get our full attention. We work with business owners who have or are growing to $500,000 to $5 million in revenue. You can use the scheduling link in the show notes to get on our calendar for a good fit conversation to see if we're the right people to support you and how we can help you.
Hey, it's Rocky. Don't forget to check out my other podcast, Richer Soul, where we talk about life beyond money and how to live that ultimate life and become a better leader in your company. As we close out, let's repeat the mantra. Revenue is vanity. profit is sanity and cash is king. Have an abundant and profitable week.